My sister humiliated me at my parents' anniversary, calling me a foster beggar in front of everyone. She then handed me a $2,900 party bill. So I took the microphone and set a trap, revealing that this beggar owned the very house they were celebrating in. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The garden was beautiful, strung with fairy lights that glittered like earthbound stars. It was my parents' 50th wedding anniversary, an event my older sister, Jessica, had been planning for months. I arrived feeling a familiar knot of anxiety in my stomach, clutching a gift-wrapped crystal vase I knew they'd love. But the knot tightened into a cold stone when I saw the seating chart. There, at the main table, sat Mom, Dad, Jessica, and her latest boyfriend. And then there was my name, Clara. I was at table 4, tucked away near the catering tent with some distant cousins and a few of my parents' neighbors. I tried to swallow my hurt. It was just a table. But as I found my seat, Jessica glided over, her smile as brittle as spun sugar. She didn't hug me. She didn't say, "Welcome." She simply thrust a cream-colored envelope into my hand. "Here," she said, her voice low and clipped, "your share." I opened it. Inside was an itemized bill for $2,900. It listed floral arrangements, string quartet, and artisanal cheese board. I stared at it, my face flushing hot. I was a successful brand consultant. The money wasn't the issue. It was the cold, transactional demand. "Jessica, this is," I started, looking up. "It's your half of the deposit I had to put down," she interrupted. "We agreed to split the party." "We never discussed a budget, Jess. And you never asked me to pay for this," I whispered, gesturing to the opulent surroundings. She leaned in, her perfume suffocating. "Don't make a scene, Clara, just pay it. It's the least you can do." I looked from the bill in my hand to the main table where my seat should have been. The coldness of the gesture, the blatant exclusion, and now this bill, it was a coordinated strike. It was a message: you are not one of us. The sting of it was sharper and deeper than any paper cut. The betrayal was worse than the bill itself. I spent the first 30 minutes of the party at table 4, nursing a glass of sparkling water and forcing smiles at neighbors who asked me about my work. From across the lawn, I could see the real family laughing. Jessica was holding court, one hand on Dad's shoulder, the other holding a champagne flute. My mother, Margaret, caught my eye once, gave a weak, apologetic little wave, and then quickly turned back to Jessica's boyfriend. My phone buzzed in my purse. It was a text from Jessica. "Did you transfer the money? The caterer needs the final payment before dessert." My fingers trembled. I felt sick. This wasn't just an oversight, it was calculated cruelty. I've spent my entire life trying to buy my way into this family, trying to be generous enough, successful enough, good enough to finally bridge the gap between daughter and adopted daughter. And here was the proof that the gap was a canyon, and Jessica was happily pushing me into it. I stood up and walked over to the main table. The string quartet was playing a soft melody, and the laughter died as I approached. "Jessica," I said, keeping my voice perfectly level, "I need to talk to you about this bill, and about the seating." Jessica sighed, a dramatic put-upon sound. "Clara, not now, you're embarrassing yourself." "I'm not embarrassing myself. I'm asking why I'm seated by the kitchen and being handed a $3,000 bill for a party I had no part in planning." My father, Richard, shifted uncomfortably. "Now, girls." Jessica stood up, her eyes flashing. "Because, Clara, I am tired of you thinking your money buys you a seat at the head of this family. It doesn't." The coldness in her voice was absolute. I looked at my parents, who just stared at their plates, refusing to meet my gaze. In that moment, something inside me didn't break, it hardened. It solidified into a cold, clear resolve. They had all, in their own ways, made their choice. And I realized with a sudden, chilling clarity that it was time to make mine. They had forgotten one crucial thing, one very, very big thing. I was adopted at 2. My parents, Richard and Margaret, were wonderful to me when Jessica wasn't around. But Jessica, 2 years my senior and their real daughter, never let me forget my place. I was the interloper, the foster kid, the charity case who had somehow lucked into their perfect life. While I was quiet and studious, Jessica was loud and demanding, the sun around which my weak-willed parents orbited, desperate to keep the peace. I went to business school. I built a consulting firm from the ground up, pouring all the energy I couldn't spend on belonging into my work. I was successful. I made very good money. Jessica, meanwhile, went to art school. She worked a low-paying job as an assistant at a chic, unprofitable gallery, cultivating an air of prestige while constantly complaining about her finances. My success only made her resentment worse. To her, every achievement of mine was an insult, and I, desperate for their approval, overcompensated. I paid for my parents' new car. I funded their vacations. I quietly slipped my mother money for house repairs, all while Jessica basked in the glory of being the real daughter who was so good to them, despite never contributing a dime. The party was a perfect example. This house, the one they were all so proud of, was the centerpiece of their family identity. Jessica knew I had a deep emotional attachment to it, as it was the only real home I'd ever known. Her holding this lavish party here, in my home, though she didn't know it, and then seating me by the catering tent was a power move. Her polished, disingenuous appearance, the designer dress I knew she couldn't afford, the professionally done hair, it was all a facade. A facade I had, in many ways, been paying for. She loved to make vague, pointed comments about my transactional view of family, all while holding her hand out for the next loan she never intended to repay. And tonight, her insecurity and jealousy were on full display. I returned to table 4, my heart hammering a new, steady rhythm of resolve. The humiliation had burned away the fog of hope I'd lived in for 34 years. My mother's text for me to just pay it for her, please, had been the final straw. I was no longer a victim, I was a strategist. I reached into my handbag and pulled out my clutch. Tucked inside, behind my driver's license, was a folded-up document. It wasn't the original, of course. That was in a safe deposit box. But it was a copy of the most recent property tax bill I'd paid. And my name alone, was listed under owner. 3 years ago, my father had called me, sobbing. His small business had failed, and they were leveraged to the hilt. The bank was foreclosing on the house. They were going to lose everything, and the humiliation would be total. Jessica, of course, was useless. She'd wailed about the tragedy, but offered no solutions. So I stepped in. I didn't just give them a loan. I went to the bank with my lawyer, and through my corporation, I bought the mortgage outright. I became the sole owner of the property. I paid off the liens. I saved the house. I told them a white lie. I said I'd spoken to a contact at the bank who pulled strings and arranged a special long-term deferment on their payments. They were so relieved, they never questioned it. They never looked at the paperwork. They just got to stay. For 3 years, I had been paying the mortgage, the insurance, and the substantial property taxes on the home they were currently treating me as a second-class guest in. I had brought the tax bill tonight. I don't know why. Maybe, subconsciously, I knew a day like this was coming. The investigation was over. The trap was already set. All I had to do was spring it. Before the main course was served, Jessica stepped up to the small podium to make a toast. She gushed about family legacy and the home our parents built. It was sickening. As she finished, I saw her look pointedly at me and then at the caterer, who was standing by the kitchen tent. The message was clear: pay up. This was it. I couldn't let it go. I walked back to the main table, my pulse thrumming. "Jessica," I said, my voice cutting through the quiet chatter. She turned annoyed. "Clara, I am hosting. What is it now?" "It's about this," I said, holding up the $2,900 bill. "I am not paying it." "Excuse me," she hissed, her face darkening. "After everything Mom and Dad have done for you, taking you in, this is how you repay them." The taking you in was the verbal knife she always used, but tonight it didn't work. "What I've done for them is irrelevant to this bill," I said calmly. You threw this party. You sourced the artisanal cheese. You pay for it. How dare you, she spat, her voice rising. Guests at the nearby tables were starting to look. You waltz in here with your big-shot job, thinking you're better than us. You're just a leech. A leech, I almost laughed. Jessica, you're the one demanding money. It's your contribution. You owe this family. I owe this family nothing, I said, my voice dropping. Especially not when I'm seated at the guest table. That's when she snapped. The mask of the elegant hostess melted away, revealing the raw, ugly jealousy beneath. The main table is for family, Clara, she shouted. The string quartet stopped playing. Everyone was watching. This table's not for foster beggars. A collective gasp went through the garden. Mimo. Hers face went white. My father looked like he wanted to disappear. Jessica just stood there, breathing heavily, a triumphant, hateful smirk on her face. She thought she had won. She thought she had finally put me in my place. I just looked at her, and then, very calmly, I smiled. Thank you, Jessica, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You've just made this so much easier. I turned from her, walked to the podium, and picked up the microphone. Excuse me, everyone, I said. My voice was amplified, and it didn't even tremble. My sister Jessica just brought up a very important point about family and about what we owe each other. Jessica's smirk faltered. She looked confused. My mother, Margaret, rushed up to the side of the podium. Clara, darling, please, she whispered, her hands fluttering. Don't make a scene. You know how Jessica gets. Just, let's talk about this later. We are talking about it later, Mom, I said, not looking at her. Later is now. I turned back to the crowd. My sister just handed me this, I said, holding up the $2,900 invoice. It's my share for this lovely party. A party I was not consulted on, and a party where, as you all saw, I was seated at table 4. I paused, letting that sink in. Jessica is right, I am adopted. I'm not their real daughter. I've been a foster beggar, as she so elegantly put it. My father stood up. Clara, that's enough. It's not enough, Dad, I said, my voice hardening. For 34 years, I have tried to earn my place in this family. I have paid for cars, for vacations, for repairs. I have been generous. And in return, I am publicly humiliated and treated like an ATM. I saw Jessica whispering frantically to her boyfriend, telling him I was crazy. Jessica just made a lovely speech about this house, I continued. This wonderful family home, the home they were all so proud to host this party in. I reached into my purse and pulled out the folded tax document. But here's the thing about this house, I said, my voice ringing with clarity. My parents don't own it. Jessica doesn't own it. I unfolded the paper. I do. The silence in the garden was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop on the grass. What are you talking about? My father stammered, taking a step forward. I'm talking about 3 years ago, I said, looking right at him. When your business failed and the bank was foreclosing, you were days away from losing this house. You were humiliated. You remember that, don't you, Dad? He stopped, his face ashen. Jessica offered her thoughts and prayers, I believe. I, on the other hand, offered a solution. I told you I'd talked to the bank, that I'd gotten you a deferment. That was a lie. I held up the tax bill. The truth is, I bought the mortgage. I paid off the liens. I have been the sole legal owner of this property for 36 months. I have paid every single mortgage payment, every insurance premium, and every property tax bill, all so you could keep your home and you could avoid humiliation. My mother put her hand to her mouth, a small, horrified sound escaping. Jessica's face had gone from red to a sickly, mottled white. You're lying, she whispered. You're lying. Am I? I said. I have the deed of trust in my car, Jessica. I have 3 years of bank statements. This foster beggar owns the roof over your head. This foster beggar is the only reason you're not all renting a 1-bedroom apartment right now. I turned to the stunned crowd. So, you see, I find myself in a difficult position. My sister, who lives here rent-free, wants me to pay $2,900 for a party she's throwing in my house. A house where I'm not even welcome at the family table. I looked back at Jessica, whose triumphant smirk was now a mask of pure, unadulterated horror. She finally understood. She finally saw the trap she had walked straight into. "So no, Jessica," I said, my voice clear and final. "I will not be paying the bill. And furthermore," I continued, my voice calm, "this arrangement is over." I looked past Jessica to my parents, who were clinging to each other. My generosity has been mistaken for weakness. My love has been taken for granted. I am done. I am done trying to buy my way into a family that doesn't want me. I placed the $2,900 bill on the podium. "Consider this your official 60-day notice. You have two options. You can either buy the house from me at its current market value, and I assure you I will not be giving a family discount. Or you can find somewhere else to live. At the end of 60 days, this house is going on the market." Jessica let out a strangled cry. You can't kick us out. This is our home." "It's my house," I said, the words feeling heavy and final. "And you are right, Jessica. It's not for foster beggars, and it's no longer for ungrateful tenants either." I took the microphone, set it gently back on its stand, and icked up my purse from table 4. I walked past the stunned guests, past the neighbors, past the string quartet who were frozen with their bows in the air. I didn't look back at my family. I didn't need to. I could feel their stunned, horrified silence burning into my back. As I reached the garden gate, I heard my mother call my name, a desperate, wailing sound. I didn't stop. I walked to my car, got in, and drove away. For the first time in my entire life, I didn't feel anxious. I didn't feel like I was on the outside looking in. I just felt quiet. I felt a cold, clean, and profound sense of peace. The bill was paid, just not the one Jessica had given me.